Pick up another you call in the parking lot Tucson. Are you with me? When I'm standing with the roof gone, I pull up like Jimmy Neutron. Hoping you could get a move on. Like you haul, and I know we need to go slow, but we could go faster. Maybe the best.
Hey, good morning, welcome in. We're talking about the Duggars, and we're also, as you saw in the thumbnail, we're gonna do some comparison to cults today. It's Cult Wednesday. Let's get into it. Let me notify everybody. I've been waiting on this. Shit, damn. Where we at? I wanted to go down the rabbit hole of Jim Bob, and did I put it? I put it in what you call it, and also another phone call, that part of a phone call that was leaked and all of that. And so this is going to be a little lengthy today, but we do want to go into Jim Bob. The thing about Jim Bob and Michelle is very weird, and also we're going to go down the rabbit hole of how they recruit others to be part of their religion. And it's very interesting to me because, as I said, I was like, that's really what they do. Hold on. Let me go. Okay. So we're gonna go into Jim Bob and Michelle relationship, and then we're gonna get into how they recruit and a lot of other stuff. Cause child, I'm like when they used to. I don't think they do it anymore because it looked like she works somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. So I do want to get into their relationship. Now I didn't know that she had all these family members, but whatever. Let's play part two of this person. Hold on.
She met Jim Bob, but I do know that she has a lesbian sister that she does not speak to. You know how they do. They say God made them do it. You know they love to say the Bible hateful, child. Okay, so I'm comfortable enough to move on now. As for their marriage and their children, they basically portray themselves to be God-fearing, law-abiding citizens. But you here, so you already know that's not the truth. Get your backpack and a snack, I'm gonna tell you. The goal is to keep it chronological as well as trying to keep it light before I take it dark because they got it all. Michelle has this weird system called the buddy system, and it's just her way of saying that her daughters are her sister wives. As soon as she has a baby, she like give it to the daughter for them to take care of, and it's only mandatory for the girls. Come back for part 3.
Yes, she's not a lion. Hold on. She does have a buddy system. And my thing, because when I heard about the buddy system, I was like, what? So they it is she the way she say it is, what we do is we just go ahead and how did you say it? We just sit here And what we do is have the kids pair up. And like, I think it was Jill, whichever one it was, she was like, it wasn't Jill, but it was another. She was like, yeah, like I had to change a diaper. My mom did stuff, but I still had to change a diaper, and I still had to do this, and I still had to do that. And I'm like, what? And when I first heard about the buddy system, I was like, how you get your kids to be buddies and they young? Like, where we do that at? It was weird. Let me see if I can find that young lady other stuff. If not, then we're gonna move on. But yeah, it's a mess. Okay, let's go back to their relationship. Let's see. Hold on, child. They've been questionable lately.
Believe how beautiful she was, how sweet she was. It definitely was love at first sight.
It wasn't love at first sight because I really didn't even talk to him.
And almost
Now for him, he's saying it was love at first sight for him with Michelle. That's the love of his life. When he first saw her, he fell in love. He gonna marry her and give her all the babies. Michelle say, Michelle making it obvious, okay? I really ain't talked to him like that. I really ain't like Jim. I didn't know what the hell he had going on with his hair with the flip. I didn't know. But I guess after I got to be with him and learn to fall in love with him without the actual connections, I gave him a try. That's what it sounded like.
beautiful girl I'd ever seen came to the door.
The first time that Jim Mom and I met, I don't remember meeting him.
A year later, my mom had started managing a yogurt shop, and I went to pick up my mom from work one day, and she said, "Hey, there's a girl named Michelle Ruark that applied for a job here today. Do you know her?" And I said, "Yes, you need to hire her." And it was shortly after that I got up.
And another thing I want to say and be honest, we don't know much about Michelle's family. We don't know much. We know much about her parents, but when it comes to her siblings, her cousins, and stuff we don't know much.
My nerve to go in and ask Michelle out on our first date. She said yes, I think just because I was a manager's son. I couldn't believe how beautiful she was, how sweet she was. It definitely was love at first sight.
It wasn't love at first.
That they throwing with each other is ridiculous. But let's talk about it.
Jim Mom and I were engaged. He decided that he wanted to take me out by the lake where I used to go when I was a little girl. And so we were riding in his 240Z. And we were coming around a curve, and I told him, I said, "This is a really sharp curve coming up," because I had the roads memorized. And he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. This car handles great." And we came around that corner, and literally the back end of that car spun around, and we were just inches away from going off of the road. I thought, this is it. We're going to go off the side of the road, and who knows where we'll be found later. And he felt so bad. And I was, Jim Mom and I.
Listen, well, let's play this one before we.
Today's my 46th birthday, and Michelle's taking me to the allergy clinic to get me tested for allergies.
Ever wonder why Michelle cringes when Jim Bob kisses her? Well, because he's creepy, that's one. But the other one is chronic halitosis, and it was an entire storyline because his birthday is apparently not interesting enough for an entire episode.
Throughout my life, I've struggled some with allergies. Growing up, I used to get some headaches and stuff from it. I think this constant drainage in the back of my throat kind of causes a little odor.
Oh, real quick to clarify, no hate to anyone who has halitosis, dental issues, anything like that. I've struggled with stuff like that in my life. I just thought this was a strange concept for a storyline, and it also kind of explains maybe one of the reasons why Michelle cringes every time Jim Bob kisses her. Let's continue.
And so sometimes I joke around that Michelle won't kiss me.
Well, we know that's not true.
I really miss you.
I think probably y'all have gotten us kissing more than anything on video, but he does have a problem with his breath, but I think it's because of all of the drainage.
only clip that came to mind, Michelle on date night. If you look at it though, whatever was going on, she had to kiss him. So she's like, oh my gosh, do you think you might want to go to an allergy test? And you guys always ask, why does she make her voice like that? Well, it's evangelical voice softening. And what they do it to infantilize themselves so that the dudes, because they want them to be submissive and basically childlike. So for her to discuss that with him and for him to actually listen, she had to do it like real like, well, it seems like maybe you're suffering with your allergies and that's a really hard thing for you. So maybe we should get that checked out. When in reality, in her mind is like, oh my God, stop, not again.
And about how much do you weigh?
About 210. I guess the most difficult thing about being in my 40s is
I really don't think they like each other. I don't give a damn what y'all say. I don't think they like each other. I mean, some of the things they used to say, now looking back, you be like, well, I mean, but now that you're older and things are getting different and we're experiencing to different things, they don't like each other. They don't like each other. They don't damn like what goddamn like.
been putting on some weight.
No one casually weight shames like evangelical moms. They don't. But his explanation of why he's gaining weight, you know what? It was cringe and you're going to cringe with me. You know how this works?
I think I'm allergic to food because every time I eat it, my stomach starts swelling up.
That's the problem.
So naturally, he's going to he tried to do a couple like healthy eating type things, whatever. And he was not able to do those. So of course he took responsibility fully for himself. Just kidding. Somehow this is also his daughter's fault. I don't know how. Everything is their fault.
I think we should probably help him more with his diet, shouldn't we? Yeah, with cooking, maybe the choices that we choose. Because we're always trying new recipes and we aren't necessarily thinking diet when we cook.
When our parents have health stuff going on, of course you want to help them cook better, whatever. But we have to keep in mind this situation, how much they're already actually doing. So let's just add something else to the plate.
I'll put a bunch of pricks on your back from mold, dust, and pollen and junk that's in the air.
I'm just putting this stuff on the pricks.
You think a little prick to test for allergies, but I'm thinking it was more like 50 to 70 pricks.
I should call him. So they find the breath is because of a postnasal drip, and Michelle says not to worry. Even if it doesn't get better, we'll buy some breath spray.
Oh
Today's
my
my 46th birthday, and Michelle's taking me to...
Child, listen. Okay, so this is what I wanted to go into. I wanted to go into a sister. Like I say, it's not much about her family, and then we're going to go further down. But it's not much about her family, which is crazy to me. And we never really heard, we heard about her mom and her dad, but we never heard about, we barely got to see them.
Yes, Michelle Duggar does have a sister who is lesbian. Her name is Evelyn, and she is 72 years old, so she is 16 years older than Michelle, I believe. I just want to do the math. She is 16 years older than Michelle. She's been in a relationship with a woman named Sharon since December of 1988. She stays out of the limelight. She hasn't really posted anything on social media, at least that we can see, since I want to say 2015. Her and her partner have been in a relationship for about 35 years now. And granted, this is coming from Josh, so we don't know how accurate it is, but he was once reported as saying that he has an aunt who is lesbian and he loves his aunt and thinks that she is a wonderful person, but that she does not necessarily agree with all the things where people are pushing for, gay rights and whatnot. And she as a lesbian believes that marriage should only be between a man and a woman. We don't know if that's changed. We don't know if Josh is even telling the truth, but it does appear as of right now that she is not married, that those two are just in a relationship. And
Wait a minute. Now, the auntie been shacking up with the partner for 30 plus years. Now, wait a damn minute. So I want to know, has that changed? Now, y'all know we are in a time where they are pushing, get married for that bullshit. Hell, I'm telling you, we just saw you can't stand your husband. And people are pushing all of this, right? And, people was kind of like, well, hell, if you get married, as long as you married, it don't really matter. There were some people, I just don't want whatever, right? But now we're in this time of age, and she's been with this woman for 30 plus years, allegedly, in the words of Josh. Who gonna believe Josh? Never mind. Because he didn't tell the truth on the set. But anyway, I just wonder, has she decided to marry a man? I just want to know. I just want to know, we're in 2026. Is this a lot of that going on?
They are happy, and I'm happy for them. As far as we're all aware, the last time that Michelle saw or really spoke to her sister was 2014 during a family reunion. Like, that's at least the last public evidence that we have of them having any sort of contact whatsoever. We haven't heard reports of, them spending time together, no pictures, no none of that. But like, I don't know, they may have called each other at some point. I don't know. Like, we don't have access to their phone records. Quite frankly, I don't think we should. But yeah, her older sister is in fact a lesbian. Yes, Michelle Duggar does have a sister who is lesbian. Her name is Evelyn, and she is 72 years old. So she is.
Let's get into some stuff. So, shout out to Without a Crystal Ball, and we're gonna get into this Kendra Duggar thing in a minute because there's a lot that just came out. Even the audio that I'm gonna play for y'all. Then we're gonna watch how Ginger asks, why does this keep happening? Like, why do we keep going on rinse repeat with this situation and other interviews that kind of just sparked our interest in things, right? So I'm going to play, shout out to Without a Crystal Ball. Let me play these, child. Now, she's going to sit here and explain to you how they recruit people into this cult, how they recruit people into having to come over and be conversed and all of that. I want y'all to hear this.
History needed to be from our home and making our home a hospitality center. And honestly, that's really where it began. And I think...
Right, and we had gone through the Financial Freedom Seminar and the Basic and Advanced, and we've felt like since the DVDs for the Financial Freedom Seminar were available, we thought this could really impact a lot of people's lives, and then it would encourage them to go to the Basic later. And so we went and invited several couples over to our house every Friday night, and we told them we were going to have what we called a pot faith meal, and we were going to have a meal at 6, and then at 7, we were going to watch this Financial Freedom Seminar. And that we just saw so many couples' lives that were changed by going through that. Our life was changed. And then many of them went on to go through the Basic and even get involved in ATI. And that was something that we could minister together as a family right out of our home, because our whole family had to clean up. Some of the older girls would even watch some of the other families' little ones while we were going through the seminar. And it was something we looked forward to. And a good time to do that is like in the fall, like after school season starts, to start doing it through there and go through the winter when it's colder and people aren't as busy at different activities.
And then I think as our children did begin to grow, then we realized we could expand and stretch out and do a little bit more in other ways. And we opened that up to our community, and we'd have free seminars at our community center. And then our older daughters and some friends would come and be a part of helping with the children. I think anything that we felt like had really made a difference in our lives, we wanted to pass that on to those that God would bring into our path. And even though we might not be...
Now, Without a Crystal Ball said over the span of 17 years, dozens of families were conned into moving to Northwest Arkansas. The process of conning the families of Jim, Bob was slow and methodical. Now, if you guys remember when I did talk about a live about them probably 2-3 weeks ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, how one of the daughters said that they were the face of IB. Am I saying it right? LP, I think I said it right, seminars, where they were the face of that religion. And because they had a big family and they were on the show, they were the face of this belief. They were the face of it. That's who they used to recruit these people. Hey, you guys, you should join. You know, if you want to get your kids in line, this should be the thing for you. And most likely that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they were doing.
Able to speak it ourselves, we could push a button and turn on a video or something, and it just literally, we have heard back from each, like maybe a single person and then a young couple and others, and through the years they have come back and said those times of going through
those different teaching moments with you guys literally have changed our lives. And we were like, it's changed ours too. That's why we were sharing it. And I think as a family, our children began to pick up this vision and seeing that everywhere we go, we are going to brush shoulders with people. And I think one of our children, even last week, was over in another area and just happened, I believe they're divine appointments, happened to meet a family when they were out and about, and they struck up conversation, and they just said, well, you know, you guys aren't that far from where we live. How about y'all just come over to our house for lunch day after tomorrow? And the family was like, well, sure. Our ministry needed to be.
God is using.
So now we're going to go to Jim Bob's mentor starving his sons to teach them self-control and to stop in their inappropriate behavior with the girls. Now that's very strange because Josh has had plethora of girlfriends. His wife wasn't his first girlfriend, as they would love for us to believe, like she wasn't the first girlfriend at all. And my thing is, why would you starve your kids for liking? Because you liked their mama, you was just so intrigued. Child, let's hear this.
Use a situation with our oldest son, Josh, really to purify our family. And our kids have confessed this thing, several things that, I didn't know anything about, but it's really been a purifying thing. And something we've started doing with me and my sons is we have been trying to fast on somewhere like Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown, somewhere through there. Some of them do it a little earlier, some do it a little later, but that's our goal. Some days, some of them are fasting all day Sunday. But one of the boys the other day told me, he said, Dad, that has really helped me in learning self-control.
Are you sure?
And what happens is when you get to, 13, 14, 15 to 18, you start getting this focus on girls. And it's just like it starts consuming you. But when you fast, it takes that focus off the girls and puts it on food. And so that's not a bad thing, because you just, you start denying yourself of something you want and you learn self-control. And so he said that's one of the most powerful things that's helped him. And if any of them had struggles even throughout the week, they said, Dad, I think I need to fast today. And so many of them have fasted even 1, 2, 3 days on their own throughout the week. And so it's a voluntary thing, but it's something that they said has really helped them. And I was thinking about the story. We are responsible for every influence we allow our kids to be around. And so parents, we also protecting them from influences that would destroy their lives prematurely. And, that's the reason we've chosen to homeschool. With our size family, some of our kids would be strong enough to go to public school, but some of them wouldn't. And with all the teaching of different things in the public school, we feel like that it's something that we have decided.
Hey, so let's pause here. So you're telling me that you would rather them homeschool because of the fact is of what they were teaching in the school. So you don't want your children, say you don't want your kids mixed up with everybody without saying it. Say you don't want your kids mixed up without everybody saying it. Say you don't want your kids around other people to influence them stuff without saying it. So Jim Bob really wanted control over the family and the kids because, like she said, in his belief, the way that Bill Gothard was teaching with the simple thing was, hey, that's what it is. Protect your children, protect them from people like that, protect them from people that it was control. And that's why these kids, his sons, have stuff going on themselves because of control. And you can tell it's a control mechanism because of the fact is, look at Josh, look at all the other ones, 2 of them. And now the kids are wondering why this keep happening.
Decided to homeschool our kids, to invest in their lives, and to teach them about the Lord. And of course, the public school leaves out all the Bible curriculum these days. And so we want to invest in them, but we also want to protect them from influences. and that includes the internet. We do have internet, but we have filters, and we have a big computer screen in our living room that if the kids want to get on it, the girls can type in a password, and then the kids can get on it. And usually it's like 2 at a time sitting there. And just be very careful. That is like a dangerous snake or a dangerous lion that's roaring, running around roaring and seeking who it's may devour. Invest in our community and to witness for the Lord. Our kids have made cookies and taken them down to the fire department and the police department and said, thank you for your service, and put a little scripture with it. God has used this situation with our oldest son, Josh, really to purify our family. And our kids have confessed several things that, I didn't know anything about, but it's really been a purifying thing. And
child, now he said here and said God has used a situation to purify their family. What? So he basically calling Josh a bad seed. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I think that's what it is. If they went to school, they would have realized their home wasn't right at all. It wasn't right. Like, they'll experience new stuff and be like, yeah, that's not normal. I don't think that's normal. Have you eaten today? Oh, well, why they wear dresses? Why they wear skirts? I believe in such and such, and I don't have to wear skirts. So I guess it felt like I only wear skirts going to church, or I only wear I don't have to wear them year round. But, I guess it's a realization of what's going on in the world. But what's really crazy to me is that he actually called that child. Let's get into the kids, shall we? So, as you know, Kendra and her husband Joseph have some issues, right? So happening now, Kendra could easily file for divorce from Josh Duggar. Oh, wait till y'all hear the audio. Why? Because she doesn't have a covenant marriage. That's right. Despite public lies by the Duggars, sources with direct knowledge said Kendra was advised not to go into a covenant marriage by her family. Why? Because they didn't want their daughter to ever be trapped in an abusive marriage or end up like Anna Duggar. They even warned Joseph Duggar that if he ever cheated or did anything like Josh, they would advise Kendra to divorce him. They had no reason to believe that at the time he would ever do what he did, but they disagree with Jim Bob Duggar, forcing Anna to stay in a marriage to a pedo. I agree. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, what's a covenant marriage? So the covenant marriage is basically saying you stay for whatever. It's certain things that you do within that to have it as a covenant. Now, we all know marriage is a covenant, but basically saying that she's not really that covenant into it. This is just a marriage, girl, just for show, girl. Don't take this serious. Is basically what they're saying. Now, I'm going to let y'all hear this audio from the jail. I don't know what her parents are thinking, but I'm going to tell you this, okay? Shout out to TMZ. I'm going to tell you this. That girl ain't going no motherfucking where. I'm sorry. She's not going anywhere.
Look forward to your call.
yeah, I look forward to it as well. I know we're getting probably close to your own time.
Do you love me?
I love you so much.
Okay.
The most.
Child,
I look forward to your call.
I know you.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well. I know we're getting probably close to your own time.
Do you love me?
I love you so much.
Okay.
The most.
I look forward to your call.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well. I know we're getting probably close to your own time.
Do you love me?
I love you so much.
Okay.
The most.
So she asked him, do you love me? I love you so much. Child, get the hell on out of here. Let's get into the tea. So Kendra, right? Now listen. Girl, does it sound like Mariah Cyrus and them Thug Child? She must have been listening to worldly music and looking at it and say, "Ooh, I'm gonna try it with my husband." That's what I got. So somebody say, Kendra Duggar, hello, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook and saw that you had a post about Kendra hiding with joy. Today, my family and I are at Silver Dollar City, and we just saw Kendra with John David, his wife, and her newborn. They were walking around the park. It's crazy how she is on vacation here in Branson when her husband is in prison and her kids are journeying to her. I wish I got a picture, but she was looking at me. So obviously she's with John and Abby hiding out. Then someone said, she said it was me who saw her today around 5 p.m. at SCD. I totally forgot about him being out on bail and was in a rush to throw a tip, and that I forgot, and I totally messed up my sentence in the email. I meant that it's crazy her kids are away from her and she is here in Branson. I think her parents have the kids. I don't think she has the kids. I didn't mean Journey. I'm a local to the area. We're at CDC tonight with my family. I saw them all by the old time photo store and where the Pugger powder keg is. So she said, listen, I seen her. Now we're trying to figure out. Now somebody say what make her mad is that she won't go to the parents, but I really do think she's with the parents. So he had court what it was, the 20th. He had arrangement. Joseph Duggar's arraignment is not Monday. The arrangement will be held May 18th. My sources allotted the delay is due to the transfer of evidence from Arkansas to Florida. Prosecutors have filed multiple confidential documents in the past couple of weeks due to the case involving a minor. Evidence that is sensitive in nature will not be public. So everybody thought he was going Monday. So Sean took without a crystal ball. She said, no, baby, they didn't go Monday. They basically, he will go May 18th. Now, another thing that's what's crazy is I want to play a little bit of this information. Let me go to my watch later. Joseph Duggar exposed, right? So now it's coming out that Kendra wants a divorce, and this is from Without a Crystal Ball. So I'm gonna play some of it. Shout out to her, child.
Also, I've heard that Kendra has told people that she was on the phone when Joseph was confessing to police. So she knew what he was saying. She heard what he said. She was listening to the words, and she still doesn't believe that it's true. So she knows that something happened, but she doesn't believe that it's that serious. She knows that he did something, but it's being downplayed as it wasn't that big of a deal. And they thought that if they just would let her parents still live there, that they would drop the charges. Like, Kendra thought that if she could convince her parents to stay and that they didn't have to leave, allegedly, they believed they could get her parents to like will them away from not going through this, right? Like, they desperately believed that we'll let you stay if you drop this. We'll let you stay if you just walk away from these charges. That's kind of how the source described it. That's not exactly what was said, but that was like the proposition. Like, it's okay, you don't have to leave. It's fine. This can go away. We can handle this differently. Like, that's how demented these people are.
Another thing, they're trying to get her to be another Anna Duggar. I'm gonna just tell you how I feel about it. I feel like when the situation came, they thought that Anna would be the one to make her own thing about this situation with Josh, right? Oh, she'll be the poster child. And I feel like that didn't work. So Kendra could be the poster child for the mess. You understand where I'm going? Like, she could be that proof of the ride or die wife, stand beside her man. That's how I felt, because remember, they were a poster child of a whole cult. They were. We just watched it. So now they're trying to get her and Anna to come together with all that's going on and figure out how to get people to come to this, how to get people to rally. And that's how I feel about it.
And
it's a mess.
Because they didn't drop it, that's why they started retaliating. Because Joseph has her brainwashed into believing that the only reason that they're doing this is because they asked them to move out of the house,
Yep.
even though they signed a lease like the day before this whole conversation went down, and they were paying rent. So when they wouldn't just drop it at the beginning,
Unless she confess and say, "Oh, it ain't that." Right. Right. It got to be serious if you're talking to a police officer. That makes no sense. Child, I want to know what's really going to happen with the trial because, you know, he got an arraignment. And if he take this to trial or whatever the case may be, and he go to prison, I think they're going to try to push her to stay with this man. I really do.
after the forensic investigation, after his confession, they couldn't drop it at that point because he confessed, right? You can't just like walk away after you've started something. But they felt like if they could bribe them by allowing them to stay in the house, that the whole thing would go away. Now, that's just my impression. Okay. I don't want to say that like it's a crime. I don't want to say you tried to bribe some people and you tried to bribe the witnesses. But the tone it was that they believed they could give the house to them and make it go away, allegedly. And when that didn't work, that's when they were like, well, then if you really aren't going to get this, if you really aren't going to do what we want, we're going to take the house now. And the retaliation started almost right away. I told you like the house stuff was turned off, and I told you that they had to turn on the utilities and put it in their name. And I told you initially that we thought it was Jed, but now I've heard that it might have been John that did that, John David. And then they tried to claim that allegedly they knew the whole time they were going to have to put the utilities in their name because they had been living there this whole time paying for the utilities to Kendra and Joe every month, but they weren't letting them have it in their name. It was so that Joe and Kendra could build their credit by having a utility bill because they wanted to have credit built apparently so that they could get a loan to build a house and buy a house. And they decided, and you know, they were going to put them in the name of the Caldwells then, but to do that, they had to turn everything off. So they just happened to turn everything off the day after. They won't drop the charges and they won't just stay in the house. So that.
And here's another thing, what I'm thinking about. I want to say this. He is like his dad. It's like a control kind of sense of, I'm gonna be nice, but in a controlling, nice sense of way. You know, yeah. And then when the cameras go off, it's a whole different person. I really feel like he is just like his dad. He's just like his dad. To me.
Really seems like retaliation if you think about it. Now, I know I've told you some of this before, and I know it seems like I'm repeating myself, but it occurred to me that I've said they don't think it's a big deal. Kendra doesn't think what he did was a big deal.
Why?
Not to the severity that it would qualify for divorce. And she's blaming her parents for trying to break up her marriage and take her children. Like, she thinks that her parents don't like Joe so much that they went to extraordinary lengths to try to get her to.
I think if you don't divorce him, they will take your kids. I think they are concerned about their grandkids. I think they have every right. I think that her thinking it's not a big deal is crazy as hell to me. Because what the hell would you want to keep having? Let me tell you something. Everybody got a deal breaker. That is the ultimate deal breaker. You have a problem. It reminds me of this movie I watched. Oh my God, SC is so crazy. Like, he don't what's the name of that movie? Padel, I think it was the last name. How the father, we're gonna talk about it next week. But how the father found it, was abusive to the child that he had with the mother, and she put her up for adoption. And because he wouldn't stop abusing and pinching the child and putting her in a cooler and shit because she won't stop hollering. And he sat here and had a relationship with his daughter and had a child after she found them from the adoptive parents. The adoptive father say, your parents had some issues, and I think that the adoptive father was telling her, the daddy got issues. We're gonna talk about it next week. But my thing is, girl, she reminds me of her. I think somebody say Stockholm syndrome. And I see that with her. I see that with her. So there's no way you're going to say that's not a deal breaker for me. Girl, the hell it is a damn deal breaker, girl. What the hell? Yeah, that the mom was telling her, yeah. I'm just looking like, girl. And she reminded me of the mom because the mom was like, a lot of people ask me why I won't leave. And there's reasons why I won't, and she never asked herself. I guess because she felt like she didn't deserve better, because she said she known that man since she was 15 years old. And, she's older. She was like, and nobody thought about it, because when I look at the age of how she said she met him when she was 15 or 16 years old, he was 21. Hell yeah, that's a problem. He been at a damn problem. He's 21, you're 15 or 16 years old. Like this situation, girl, your husband got a problem, girl. Yeah. Like, they all know it. Yes, he has a problem. That's crazy.
Divorce him by fabricating this whole thing so that she would leave him. And she thinks that it's her parents trying to control her, because that's allegedly what Joe is telling her. So your parents don't want you with me. So they're bringing this up now so that you leave me and divorce me, and that they're just doing this to control you because they want to control you. When the ironic part of that is that's Joe actually trying to control her and gaslight her into believing that the victim's parents are the bad people and that they are the wrong ones for reporting, and that he is the victim of them. And he has also convinced his siblings that he is the victim of them. And some of his siblings also are buying into this narrative that all of this is made up and retaliation, and it's all being done because they didn't get to stay in a house.
Right.
Which I've told you a million times doesn't make sense.
It don't.
And Joy and Austin are among that crowd. They support Joseph because they don't think it's a big deal. That's what I heard. That they don't think that what he's said he's done truly amounts to what's happening right now. They believe Joseph when he was like, oh, it was just over the clothes. It's not a big deal. And they believe this because apparently they're okay with this.
Yes, she has. She's been exposing a lot. She even having on her Instagram that we were just looking at, and how we were talking about about it. So yeah, I've watched her. I've been watching her for a minute.
So I'm again like, you need to go check on the Duggar kids, because they're acting like it's an overreaction to report it to the police. And Joy and Austin came in almost like handlers for Kendra to keep an eye on her for Jim Bob, even though Joy and Austin have a tenuous relationship with Jim Bob.
My bad, y'all. That was an accident. So basically, they saying that Joy and Austin don't have a relationship with Jim Bob. I'm not going to play all of it, but they do not have a relationship. I don't know why I hit that thing on accident. I do want to apologize. But they don't have a relationship either, but they still support him, which is very weird. But let me tell you what I have saw earlier. So I was scrolling before we went live, and it was Ginger and Jeremy does have a podcast, and they were talking about the dangers in the dangerous theology behind the scandals, and they are openly talking about it. So I do want to play that. Let me read my because we are reacting to it.
There's a question that keeps
my copyright, because I do not want no issues. Shout out to them. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made in fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use prohibited by the copyright status that otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, personal tips. The balance of the fair use. Okay, hold on. Let me copy that. Now, I'm not going to play all of it. We are going to skip through, and we are going to play here and there skip through, on what we think are important to talk about.
It's coming up, and I think rightly so. Mm-hmm. People are asking, why does this keep happening? Anyone else regarding Joe? And yet, ideas have consequences. Mm-hmm. And for the last several years, you've been very outspoken. I think together we have been about the dangerous theology of Bill Gothard and the Institute of Basic Life Principles, which was deeply impactful to your family and built a lot of how life was approached. And I think this is another opportunity to say it's pivotal that we're very careful what we believe, who we listen to. Theology has consequences. And if you have wrong theology, it can have devastating consequences.
Yeah.
And I think some people might say, Jen, sorry, I'm dominating this intro again, but so jump in whenever you feel like you want to jump in. But I think some people would say, we don't need to get theological right now. This isn't a theology thing. No.
I'm going to be honest, it is a theological thing. And I'm going to be straight up with y'all. Listen, my relationship with God is what it is, right? But let's be honest. It all has some cultish stuff to it. That's why religion, when you break it up, it does look like that. But when you're not looking at it as a religion as a whole, and you're just looking at it as a relationship or whatever, it is not. So he's not lying. You have to be careful. We're in a time now, I keep telling y'all when we do political talk, where, you have Christian, there's a difference now, which is very in our face, between Christians and Christian nationalists. Christians and Christian nationalists. You got to understand either one. Just because somebody look at, oh, yeah, they didn't believe in God. No, okay. You got to be like, well, what else you believe in? What you got to ask questions now. That's where we at now. And the Christians don't do that enough for me. And I do want to have a talk about Christians next week because they're not doing enough for me right now. I'm a little concerned.
How you view God directly impacts how you view yourself, which impacts how you view sin, which impacts how you view evil, which impacts how you view sexuality, which impacts how you view loving one another, stealing, life together in community, worship. All of life is impacted by your ideas. Ideas have consequences. And Bill Gothard had dangerous teaching about who God is. It's teaching that you're still, from time to time, you find yourself like unraveling still in your own heart. He had dangerous teaching about what a man is, what a woman is for.
Yep. They were beating it into the kids. Self-control is having them fast or starve them just to have the self-control. Where they had a 6 months where they reach for something, they would pop them or pinch them or anything to keep them from, having, you know what I'm saying? For having like any situations. So yeah. Black and Bougie, this is the Duggars. This is Ginger. That is her husband. They have a podcast, and they having a serious question of why these scandals keep happening in their family. Because first it was Josh, and now it's another brother. I think it's Joseph that has something to do with with children. So they're having a discussion about it because they were saying that, you know, what's crazy is they keep having these scandals and they want to know why. And her husband is telling her that the theologies that they were raised under and what they were told to believe that affected their family is really the reason why, because of the teachings and that how it messed them up. Mm-hmm.
How to approach life and godliness and how to pursue holiness. What is salvation? Dangerous ideas, and they have consequences. It was Jesus who says, wisdom is justified by her deeds. So in Matthew 11, I think it's Matthew 11, actually I can check it here, but the religious leaders are calling Jesus a drunkard and a glutton. And he doesn't say, the Son of Man came eating and drinking. They say, look at him, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Jesus doesn't go, no. You know, I don't like to eat, or I don't drink wine, or he goes, wisdom is justified by her deeds. What I am will be evident in what I do. And the fruit that's produced in my life. And so I guess I'm saying all this to say it's good and right that people look at the claims of a teacher who says, I speak for God, like you often say, but didn't really.
We're going to talk about another
and go, you claim to speak for God. You claim that this is Christianity, which I would argue is not Christianity at all.
There are some Christians in it.
Yes.
There are a lot of Christians probably in it.
Yes.
Wow.
But it does not make that Christianity.
And here's the interesting thing, and I think some of our viewers might be surprised to hear this. We're going to go to a passage. There's multiple, but specifically one, which very explicitly says that's not Christianity. It has nothing to do with Christ. Christianity is consumed with Christ. So even though a teacher like Bill Gothard might say, and its adherents, this is Christianity. No, it's not. Just because you say that doesn't make it true. And when you see the fruit of it produces anything but what Jesus promises it will produce. Jesus promises life. Jesus promises peace, gentleness, self-control. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness.
Child, the stuff that they've been, honey, he ain't the hun. I'm just saying
self-control. And against such things there is.
You know what? The boys have no self-control. They tried to force it on them with self-control because they, instead of having a conversation and teaching them about self-control and about saying, you know what, I need to control myself. Yes. That's what he's saying. He's saying that's what they really are. Yep. Just a different name and different grammar. Yes, that's the pop. That's the thing. That is the truth. Hey. And that's what he's saying. He's saying that's the behavior they were taught, because what he noticed, how it started for him was when he started dating Ginger. And he said this. He said, oh, why? He was like listening like, oh, y'all have to hold hands. You can't kiss. You can't do this. And he was like, what? And then what really took him to be like, oh, hell no, because he went to the thing, right? And he wanted to see what this was all about. And so he was curious. Curiosity killed the cat, right? But he wanted to date Ginger. That was what he was. Yeah, Ginger Ginger is out of it. He got Ginger out of it. And I'm going to tell you how he did it. He said, so y'all remember on the show how, they need to have a chaperone and all this and that. No. This one is the IBLP that they were in, the Duggars. They was at IBLP. But he said that what happened was they were supposed to go out on a date and they didn't have no chaperones. And he said that they were going to send the kids as a chaperone. He said, stop. He said, if I got to have a child come chaperone us or anybody, I don't have self-control. He said, so him and her would have a conversation about self-control. And he would tell her about how if he didn't have self-control, he said, listen, I don't been out there. I don't lived out there. I was a baseball player. He basically said it. He was a hoe. Yeah, that's what he was saying. They were too concerned. And then he said another thing that got them was when they went on a honeymoon and they kept asking Ginger, was she pregnant? He said he felt offensive. Hey, okay. He felt offensive. Hey, Cancer. He felt offensive, like, what you mean? Like, come on now. Like, you can't just ask my wife that. You think we just gonna do that? But the reason why he never said of what the bylaws was that they gave the sons and people that married with the girls. He wasn't going to do that. He wasn't going to force her to have no babies. They already had a conversation about their marriage, about what it was, how they were going to be, and why. He said that he had to make up. He said he made them watch the video and some questionnaires or whatever, and there was some videos of Bill Gothard. He said he knew then that it wasn't right. He said it just wasn't right. So she found somebody outside of it. That's exactly what happened. I'm glad that she found somebody because to me, she needed that. She needed that. I don't care what nobody says. She needed that because the moment she started to realize, she said she started to knew things wasn't right. She started to see things wasn't right. And that's when she started wearing pants. She colored her hair. She cut her hair. She started feeling different. And he was supporting her. He was like, she wrote a book about it and her family was upset. But she is on a different journey than most. And I'm glad she having this conversation because a lot of people was like, no, she covering with them. But she was like, no, we got to have this conversation. What she's saying about the scandal with her family, why this keep happening. And I feel like that's what she needs. Yes. You know what? Speaking of that thing that he married last, she wanted to be the top-notch wife, and I'm glad everybody left him so she could have that position because the way she kept pushing out them women, them sister wives to get that top-notch, I'm glad she got it because now she's starting to see what they were talking about. And she should have thought about that when she kept trying to push them out the way with Cody to keep Cody for herself. I knew that was going to happen.
No law.
She got on my nerves. I can't stand her.
As a pattern in a movement, the opposite, wisdom is justified by her deeds, or it's proven to not be wisdom.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think for anybody who's listening who has never heard of Bill Gothard, doesn't know what we're talking about at all, Bill Gothard had what we'd say now like a movement, I guess, in the 60s and 70s where he came around saying that if you follow his rules.
Well, girl, I'm going to talk about them because from a word on the curb is that she was supposed to be living in a separate house from Cody. So I don't know.
These basic principles. Yep. 7 basic life principles that your life is going to be a success. And if you don't, then it's going to be one disaster after another. And a lot of families were well-meaning when they entered that setting. They thought, okay, I'm going to protect my family by putting up these very concrete rules for my kids to keep them safe, to keep them in, to have friends that are going to be identical to us, that will shield our kids from the outside world almost, and let them be a light to the nations.
And here's where those ideas are so devastating, is a lecture in front of an audience isn't just a lecture in front of an audience. It's why Jesus, or James, the half-brother Jesus, says, not many of you ought to become teachers, because you'll be held to a stricter judgment. People looked at Bill Gothard.
The work of Christ in our hearts, and the love of Christ constrains us.
He said people look at Bill Gothard like, that he's so, he was such important and he know this and that. She even said that it came a time with Bill Gothard to where the teachings were like that because it was around the time in the 70s to where you were exposed to so much. They had that epidemic in the 70s. You partying, you doing this and that, and then you know, they had the cocaine epidemic in the early 80s. And then people start realizing their family ain't home, this and that missing, and they hungry. Then you had the scare of it, of the 3-letter words that came out. And people that were having all that fun in the 70s. And woo, yeah. He was like the savior kids. You know, so he would take bits and pieces from the Bible and people's stories and put them together as a teaching to put fear into the parents, to push fear into the kids.
100%. That's it. And so here's the thing that, and okay, let me just apologize to our listeners. I'm talking a lot of bit today, and I really, I don't want to.
He a little, and a lot of people's like, why he won't let her talk? He's more passionate because I'm going to be honest with y'all. He's very protective of Ginger. I've noticed that anyway. He's very protective of Ginger. Like when it comes to certain stuff, he's not finna play about no Ginger. I noticed that too. He's very protective of her. Like when I saw the other interview that they did, he's very protective. He loves Ginger. Like ain't no doubt about it. He's very protective of her. Like he ain't he gonna talk about it because he don't like that that's what she went through. And he felt he don't like what's going on because to him his wife is in it. It's not about him, it's not about their family. It's his wife. And then if she wants the kids to get to know their uncle and stuff, he's very like, wait a minute.
Talk like crazy. But
I like it when you talk.
Well, I like it when you talk. So we're at an impasse. But I do have a sense like this has kind of been like welling up inside of me.
Yeah.
And the text that has really been like exploding has been the book of Colossians, specifically Colossians chapter 2, because what hurts me or any Christian really is to see headlines and for people to go, see, that's what Christianity produces. And to know, no, Christianity's the opposite of that. So a little Bible chat here, but Colossians is this incredible New Testament book written by the Apostle Paul.
Yes.
And he begins this book.
I agree. Because he know firsthand. He was in that house with them. He knows firsthand about all the stuff that she went through with the family. Like certain stuff he never,
Writing to these Christians in Colossae who had all of these heresies coming amongst them. They had Bill Gothards walking amongst them who talked really smooth. He talks about that. And they had really plausible explanations for how to do the Christian life. And he actually warns them. He says in chapter 2, verse 4, I don't want anyone to delude you with plausible arguments. He says, in Christ are all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge hidden. And so he starts the book by saying Jesus is supreme. He's the Son of God. He is God in the flesh. He's the creator of the universe. The opening chapter of Colossians is just like a tour de force of who Jesus is. But he says all this because he says, some people are coming amongst you and they're talking and it seems to make sense. But everything they say, I mean, listen to what Paul says. See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition. Source of their evil passion, not by cutting off internet access.
Yep.
But by setting your mind on Christ. And so here's where it comes back to the practical. You have young people.
He telling her cutting off internet access was not normal. That wasn't normal, which he has cut off. Remember, he said that he cut off internet access. The thing about it, he said that's not going to make it better, just cutting the internet off. No. That what you cut the internet off for, that means it's no self-control. So he's letting her know that because remember, he used to cut that internet off on them kids. That ain't normal. Remember, he said, oh, they got a password, they can do this. He's basically saying that's not normal to just cut off certain things. Yes.
Who are growing up in a culture and a society, in a theology that is telling them those evil passions out there, you suppress them, you ignore them, you have nothing to do with them, and by that you'll attain purity. And then when it comes to a subject like sex, they're given, and this is another skewed perspective, it's unclean, it's impure, it's not to be spoken of. It's pushed out. And then when you look at the subject of modesty, this is a whole other subject. The ascetic approach to sexual morality with modesty, you know what it says? The woman and her body is the source of lust. And so if you can't get rid of the women, you cover them up. And if they're not,
that's what Bill was saying. Bill Gothard said, if you can't get rid of them, so the best thing to do is cover them up. Yep. If you can't do that, you cover them up. That's why they were covered. It wasn't a conversation about, well, if you have, like in normal households, if you have sexual activities, this will come with it, this what happens, things get cloudy, judgment and stuff, this and that. It's not regular, conversations. He's basically saying, Bill Gothard said, that a woman's body that produces life, basically saying all she good for is producing life, and cover her up, because that's the person that's going to breed for you. That's basically what he's saying. That's the person that you push them babies out of her when you get married. You force them. What the hell?
Covered up. It's their fault that the man falls into sin. And I'll prove this to you from Gothard's own teaching.
He got it.
This is his teaching on this, available on the internet. It's called Counseling Regarding Sexual Abuse. And it's talking to...
And when he talk about, yes, that's what he's saying. He's saying that's not normal, because he was saying, when I read it, I think it was not the last, was it the last live? I think it was my last live. He was like, you blame, if a woman is SA'd, you blame that woman because a man don't know how to control himself. You blame that woman. And he was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, he said, you blame that woman. You make her and pray and fast it away. Exactly what he said.
How do you counsel a young woman who's been abused? And the whole thing is skewed. He shows the parts of our being: body, emotions, will, mind, spirit. And he says, which is the most important? And he's trying to get the person to deduce, well, my spirit is most important. My body really doesn't matter that much. So if my body is damaged in that way, it's the least significant part of me. So it's downplaying the crime, right? Which is why you could see a response to it being like, it's not a major deal.
You see how he threw that situation in there? Do y'all see how he threw that situation in there? I just went earlier in the live. We talked about how Kendra said it's not a big deal what that her brother did. And he's showing everybody, and he threw it in there. He said, hypothetically speaking, he said, this is why your brother and your family don't think this is a big deal. This is why Kendra don't think this is a big deal. It is a big deal what he did. That is why, because of the teachings. It's, oh, that's not a big deal. And it is said, Kendra was like, it's not a big deal what he did. I'm not going to divorce him. Her family is like, yes, you need to divorce him. She said no. That's why Anna Duggar like, yeah, that's not a big deal. Whatever. If you think about it, anything that they do is not a damn big deal. There is nothing to say, okay, that's enough. A deal breaker. Wow. Without a crystal ball is not lying. Because she also stated how the girls wanted to be with Josh, because Josh was on TV. So they were running to get to the altar with Josh. She ain't lying. She's not lying. She didn't lie about that. She not lying. That's what we're seeing. And he's even saying this, hey, listen, yeah, I don't do religion anymore either. Religion to me is it's like a separation. Like separating from beliefs. I don't do it.
Because that's the least important part about you. Your body's going to go into the ground. It's your spirit that's valuable. But then listen to this. Why did God let it happen? A result of defrauding by him.
Now remind you, he's reading what Bill Gothard said. He said, Bill Gothard said, why did God let it happen? Listen to what he reading this man said.
A lot of stress, indecent exposure, being out from the protection of your parents, being with evil friends.
Upset. That is so insane. And it's on the victim.
Because
it puts all that on the victim because you caused that person to do that crime.
Because the source of their evil passion.
Insane. I remembered seeing that.
The source of their evil passion is your body, and you didn't cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's on you. So it makes young men who are deviant in their behavior victims of the woman's body. When you go, it's exactly the reverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you would get to that when you go, if sin's not in here, it must be caused by an external factor. The woman's body is the cause. Jesus goes, nope, it's the heart. Your heart is the cause. We have sinful hearts. And so we've got to deal with the heart. And the only way to deal with that is by Christ giving you a new one. So it's this Christ obsession that ought to be cultivated, this looking to Christ as our Savior and our sanctifier, not looking around for excuses and then trying to cut those off. And the sad reality is you can't get rid of women in your life. And so it becomes blame against them. And then it actually results in, and you and I have talked about this a lot, there's a shame that comes with the woman who's almost ashamed that you have a body.
Yeah, ashamed of it's crazy. I think that was one of my big insecurities too. I struggled with that. I think I just wish I didn't have any shape at all, any form or shape, because I was like, that's just, then I could feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Just not having to worry about even curves that are natural for every woman to have.
I remember telling you, Ginger, you have a body.
You're like, it's fine.
It's God good. Made you with a body.
It's beautiful. That's
you don't
fine.
have to put a box around it.
Yes. And I remember being so insecure about that because I felt like I just basically wanted to wear a potato sack because I thought that's how I'm going to honor God.
And here's where, again, ideas of consequences. Anthropology is the term for the study of man, right? Or the study of person. You know what modesty, the purity culture of modesty actually does? Is it deduces a woman to a singular purpose as a sexual object. That's what you're for. And so you've got to cover yourself up. And you go, that's not what a woman is for. It's not even what her body is for. She's an image bearer, made in the image of God to reflect him in all of his beauty and his attributes of creativity and the design of the Imago Dei stamped upon the woman.
And that's why she wearing pants. It wasn't just to him. It was him telling her, to love herself. She said she got to wear a potato. She felt like she had to wear a potato sack because she felt like God would be mad at her. And that's when Bill Gotham put fear into women. And then the parents put fear into the children, young girls. And he say, embrace who you are. That's your body. That's just how it's made. What else? Everybody's not made the same.
She is not deduced to an object.
Yeah, she's still modest.
But that sort of teaching sees the woman.
You can tell she's starting to, it's going to take her time. Like, you can start to see, like, is she going to break away from it?
As a threat. And so it suppresses the woman, and it also suppresses the young man's processing of desire, because hormones are real.
Yeah.
They're not talked about. They're not talked to about it. They're told that's dirty and wrong, and it's just suppressed. And here's the danger. And this is where the adults in the room fail the children when they don't adequately approach that subject. Because we are sexual beings, and we need to have an understanding of what's pure and holy and right about how God made us and what's to be avoided. Because God's the one who made us that way. But when that's suppressed, I'll tell you what happens. Those young men don't stop asking questions. They just go different places for answers. And where do
That's exactly where her brothers went. They didn't have them conversations with them. And you could tell if they had those conversations, there could have been some things to help. They didn't. You could tell they really didn't have that conversation.
they go when they're isolated and alone? And so you've got major implications of this theology start bearing down very practically in dangerous ways. And so you start asking, why is this a pattern? Well, because there's a belief system, right? Now, that does not mean every young person reacted in a deviant way at all, even by majority. But it does give insight into how that could create a pattern.
It is. Because
theology matters. And let me just say this, and this is sort of like from a biblical perspective. So I'm a preacher, right? Like I'm a student of the Bible, and it's my first filter when I'm viewing things. So I don't mean to be so preachy. You know, I think this may be not an average podcast for us, but there's like the nail in the coffin of Gothard's theology and approach to this is the church in Corinth. Corinth was a Grecian city which was known for its debauchery. It was like Vegas on steroids, like Sin City, you know, to the point where people would refer to, if you were like really debaucherous, they'd go, you're a Corinthian. And the reason for that is there was cult prostitution. So
another thing, he don't just read the Bible. What I noticed with Jeremy do his research. He does his research. He goes into research of everything. Because that's why nobody can fool him with stuff. Jeremy go into research. He's like, nah, let me look this up. Let me see what this is. Let me see the history of that. Jeremy be going deep. And I feel like she needs somebody for that because he does his research. He's not just reading the Bible and coming, but he's researching what he's reading. And then he go and research, okay. So he can break it down to an understanding. For her to understand how it was a cult, what happened, how this really started.
Immorality was baked into the religion. It's just how they did everything. So you're coming home for dinner to your family and you stop by the temple to worship and engage in immorality. Your wife doesn't bat an eyelid. It's like, yeah, that's our religion. The Corinthians were a pagan society which was known for rampant immorality. And then Corinthians hear the gospel and churches form. And they have issues. Paul has to actually work through some serious issues with them in the churches. They're suing one another. They're getting drunk at the Lord's Supper. There's all sorts of immorality. And yet one thing Paul never says to the Corinthians, which would have, according to Gothard or the ascetic, solved everything. He never says, leave Corinth.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, I mean, it would have been a very simple solution. Hey, Corinthians, you're struggling with immorality and drunkenness. Get out of the most debaucherous city in the ancient Near Eastern world. What are you, crazy? Why would you still be there? Instead, over and over and over and over, he appeals to the reality that they're united to Jesus. So when he's dealing with the cult temple immorality, he doesn't say, well, you live around the corner from the temple. That's not the problem. The problem is not the external influence. He says, why would you join Jesus Christ to your immorality? Don't you know you're one with Jesus? His appeal to them is Paul's same appeal to the Colossians in Colossians 3. You're joined to Christ because Christ has the power to transform from within.
Now, this be my problem with some Christians. You see how this man went and read, and then he went and researched to comprehend everything. Why the hell can't half of them do that? That's my question to the Christians. Why not? This is what we mean by comprehending what you're reading. Yeah, she got somebody to help her get out of that, and I'm happy for her. Let me fast forward a little bit more.
Message for their own propping up and their own gain and their own exploitation of people doesn't invalidate Christ himself. And that's where I would just hope, we're doing this little 40-minute podcast or whatever. This is an ocean of truth. The Bible speaks to your situation. Now I'm talking to the listener.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you are, it speaks. Read Romans 1. If you want to read about America in 2026, read Romans 1. Read the letters to the Corinthians. Read the book of Colossians. You want to understand our world? Read the Gospels and you'll go, oh yeah, this is us. Mm-hmm. It speaks to it. And so this isn't a victim of, the Bible's not a victim to what some philosophical deceivers want to make it. You have it in your hands. You can go to the source and see what it says, and you'll actually discover it calls these guys out. Read 2 Peter. There are books dedicated to exposing false teachers. Read the letter of that Jude wrote to the church. It's all there. And so that's my hope and passion, is that this would whet people's appetite to go, okay, who is Jesus really? And what did he really say? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't like the fruit that you're seeing amongst those who claim to be Christians,
I be saying
go to Christ himself, and you'll see the fruit. You'll see the truth.
Shout out to them with that podcast. They Christians, so they're gonna talk about, but then he did break it down and help. My thing is, he's not lying. Heck, I've been saying that. And then I'm gonna say this: ain't no religion in the Bible. It's really not. That's just how they make it. I've never seen a chapter. Listen, my daddy was a pastor. Okay, we went to church all the time on my mama's side with my grandparents a lot. We was in the church. One of the pastors I grew up with loved me like I was a family member. Okay, good friends with my granddaddy and stuff. So. I never read the whole time we sit up in there. We ain't reading about what that was a religion. I didn't know till I got older. We saw the separation of, oh, you Buddhist, you did. And then I started going. I say, well, let me go see and what this all entail. Honey, when I started reading it, and then when I hear people say, oh, sacrifice the animals. Okay, you sacrifice the lamb. Well, that's not to say. That's what God say. Baby, it's what's been going on. That is part of it. It's all worshiping. It's just a different type of worship. Yeah, I stopped going after a while. I did. I did. I feel like I don't know. It's a lot that I have to go deep and tell, but it all entails like different worship. It's just different worship. You really not. It's certain stuff you're not supposed to eat anyway, but I mean, people still eat it. So it's all worship, and until people realize that you really, it's the same God. But okay, it's just people take it to the extreme. They don't understand what they're reading. But as we go from them, I was thinking about going back since we're doing cult. About Mount Carmel Center. Now, I thought this was recent because it's always been a topic, but it was ran by David Koresh, and it was in from I think the 70s to the 90s. And we gonna get into it. Yes. I believe that. Now, do I believe in God? Absolutely. But do I believe that how can I say it? I feel like with them, that was an eye-opener for us. Because we believe that we sit here and go, oh yeah, getting pregnant out of wedlock there. That threw I got done too. Oh, well, we sit here and think, I'm going to be honest with you. I grew up everybody has to love everybody. But I also grew up knowing when I went home, everybody don't love everybody, right? Everybody can't be friends, right? So I was like, okay, everybody can't be friends. Everybody can't turn the other cheek. How many cheeks you gonna turn? I always ask that. Cause my auntie used to preach it, so I'd be like, how many cheeks can you turn? We have 4 cheeks on our bodies. Turn it. I'm ran out of cheeks after 4. And you darn sure ain't touching that back. Huh? Huh? But I think what happened to Trayvon Martin and Sandra Bland is an eye-opener for us that we are not, and that we need to pay attention to. And it's a lot we have to pay attention to. And we keep going blindsided, and then we go and ask God, oh, God, forgive me because I act like this. Some things you don't have to ask. Sometimes that's just what it is. You have to act that way. Heck, it's a normal reaction. And that's how I feel. And I hate that it happened to them, but I'm glad it opened our eyes to a lot of things. A lot of things that, wasn't open before. And it really took the veil off. It really did. It really did. And I wish they were still here, but hearing their story and paying attention to how people really feel. And then with Trayvon Martin, what pissed people off, because I was in Florida around that time, I grew up there, his family was in the justice system. And every time I hear people say, oh, well, they didn't have, his family was in the justice system. Go look it up. Trayvon Martin's unaliver, George Zimmerman, his family was in that justice system. From judges to everything. They were in the justice system. Of course. I knew that, and when we did a deep dive about it and people started researching his family, that was when he was in the justice system. His father was a judge. His great-grandfather was over like a sheriff town and all that. Yeah, it went deep. That's why Trayvon Martin mama, and I'm glad she went into Congress, because she knew when everybody did their research, she knew. Yep. We were shocked. I'll never forget that they were talking about that. YouTube was heavy with it. I'll never forget. And I was like, what, man? When them people started pulling up that man and they were pissed off because he won. And I remember I was like, man, don't do none of that. They gonna do that. Excuse me, they gonna want to unalive y'all. Just look up what y'all look up. And people started looking up everything. When I say went through a deep dive about that man, heck yeah, that's why that man ain't got no job and he homeless. Wasn't nobody finna hire him, and people wanted that man for what he did to that boy. Because you got off. We already knew what it was. That's why Florida was deep down. Everybody was like, well, why they? Because let me tell you something. Ain't nobody finna go to the swamp area to find nobody. Gators be hungry. Okay? I don't walk near gators before. Trust me. Baby, trust me. Listen, I've been some everywhere. That's a conversation for another day. I used to be outside walking the trail and shit at night and hanging out the puff pass and shit. Trust me. I'm surprised I'm still here, okay? Wild. But we gonna get into it. So I have talked about this happened in Waco, and they're trying to recreate this again because number one, that the fact is they're trying to recreate Mount Carmel Center because police officers can't go past a certain point. But it is a museum. We're finna get into it. It's a museum in Waco, Texas. It is now in a museum, and a lot of people say that going into this museum is very, like, they're scared. Like, it's weird. So that is the church. All church. All them people was in there. Child, let's talk about it. Hold on. 86 people lost their lives that day on April 19th, 1993, and 28 of them were children. And we finna get into that. Now, the sound that y'all are hearing are when he was slaughtering animals to force them into things. Yes.
So imagine this. You're 12 years old and you just got adopted a few years ago, and you have
I'm
already been
sorry.
through a traumatic therapy called reattachment therapy or rebirthing therapy, which is now illegal in the country because children were dying. And your parents, your adoptive parents, are looking for a new therapy for you. And things just aren't going well. And one day at 4 o'clock in the morning, your bedroom door burst open, and two men that you don't know in black clothing come and grab you out of your bed. They take you down the stairs of the home that you've now become to know as your own, and they drag you out of your house in the middle of winter, a Michigan winter, in your pajamas with no shoes on, and they throw you in the back of the van. In the back of the van, you see that your mother is there, your adoptive mother, and her sister, so your aunt, and there's another person driving the van. They quickly tell you to be quiet, and they don't answer any questions. They then drive you from Michigan to Illinois, where you get on a plane at O'Hare and you fly for hours, it seems like. And you land in Montana. You land in Montana and you still don't know where you're going or what's happening. You just know that you woke up in your bed at 4 a.m. and now you're going to sleep in a hotel room in Montana. The next morning, the same people who took you out of your room assisted your mom and your aunt to drive you to another location, which was about 4 hours south of Montana, in a little town called Powell, Wyoming. So you see the sign above this dirt road that reads Mount Carmel Youth Ranch. And you go down a 3-mile, 4-mile road, dirt road, and the two guys that were with you from the beginning jump out of the van with you and they hold you as you beg for your adopted mother not to leave you. You're having flashbacks of your time in foster care and being removed from your biological mother, and the van just takes off. You see Mr. Jerry, who's the owner of Mount Carmel Youth Ranch, there with some employees, and they take you inside and they explain to you what's happening. They tell you that you are at Mount Carmel Youth Ranch, which is a ranch for troubled teens, and you might be here for a year, 2 years, 3 years, they don't know. All they know is that your parents have just abandoned you here. It's
most of the people were, because they had many of them, but I think the biggest one and the known one that was such a big thing was here in Waco. Well, I'm not in Waco, but here in Texas in Waco. And I heard that children would go to them places. They had one for children, and they didn't know how long that they were going to have them there. And it was like a cult. It was like a cult.
negative 30 degrees in Wyoming, it feels like. And they give you a pair of Wrangler jeans, some cowboy boots, a snappy, and a tent.
Yes.
And they let you know that you're not staying in the log cabin that you just saw. You're actually going out into the wilderness where you will have to fight Mother Nature, animals, and others to survive. Life for part 2. So imagine this. You're 12 years old and you just got adopted a few years ago, and you have already been through a traumatic therapy called reattachment therapy or rebirthing therapy, which is now illegal in the country because children were dying. And your parents, your adoptive parents, are looking for a new therapy for you. And things just aren't going well. And one day at 4 o'clock in the morning, your bedroom door burst open, and 2 men that you don't know in black clothing come and grab you out of your bed. They take you down the stairs of the home that you've now become to know as your own, and they drag you out of your house in the middle of winter.
My bad, y'all. I gotta fix my pajamas. So I think somebody took. Okay, let's look at this. I'm gonna read y'all the story. Oh, now they got music. Hold on. Let me go to the story. Okay. And they had plenty of leaders, y'all. Plenty of leaders. Good morning. They had plenty of leaders.
House where David Koresh and like his family lived. Mount Carmel was an entire community of people located on hundreds of acres. This church had its own self-sustaining community where members had their own homes and farms. They grew and stockpiled their own food. They had their own church, administrative buildings, a makeshift hospital, their own dispensary, their own school. They even had their own water and sewage systems. So it wasn't like this siege only affected one house or one family, but literally an entire community of people. And like this commenter says, imagine being a woman or a man, but imagine being a woman living in this community. You have your own house, your own farm, you're raising your children, you're just living your life.
So listen, the Branch Davidson property 6 miles east of central Waco, Texas, where the FBI siege of the Branch Davidson's home, referred to as Mount Carmel, occurred in 1993. There are documents of cemetery burials. Like the people that passed there are buried on the ground. They're buried on the church land. Let me show y'all like photos of them. They had their own restaurants. There were people, that went out there, and some people were buried out there. They have stories about it. Child, listen. So now you can visit and go look and see for yourself.
And somebody comes running into town to tell you that the ATF is descending on your entire community. That would have to have been terrifying. This is a great point that a lot of people, I think, forget about.
So the U.S. government declares war on women and children, mostly of Mount Carmel, instead of apprehending one man, unaliving 82 Branch Davidsons. Now, all those kids and women were unalived, but they say, well, the U.S. really didn't do it. David twisted these people. I'm reading what somebody's saying. This is true. He killed all these women and children by his twisted cult actions. And we finna get into that because we finna talk about him. We're finna go into David, and then I'm gonna read y'all. David was a mess. And you know what? To the people that sit here and love Charlie Kirk so much, he had something to say about them. And
you have the sign of an upside down cross on your chest, and that's the sign of a warlock. You've studied Satanism.
I never was involved in Satanism, but you can see I'm a musician. You see the guitars and stuff. There was a time in my life where I was seeking after Christ and all that, and I'd come to the end of my rope in life, and you know, what I did is that I took a 5 and dime store across and all that, and I was there mounting with a candle, you see, and it fell on my chest. Whoever God was with was to resurrect this lady.
This was a challenge he made to you?
Yes. And so you hear something like that, and you kind of go, well, not today, George, you know, and you just hang the phone up. You see what I'm saying? There's a madman living in Waco. He's bowing his knee to bear. Won't you help, Mr. Sheriff?
The centerpiece of that was David Koresh. It was in Waco, Texas. A 51-day siege ensued when David Koresh, well, Walmart, he was filling up one of his cars with a tank of gas. No, the federal government made a decision. They made a decision to try to make an example out of David Koresh.
Okay.
How did 24 Black British Caribbean Christians end up dead in Texas in 1993? Today, I'm talking to you about the Waco tragedy. In 1988.
Yeah, he did. He did all that. He sure did. He did. We gonna read into it. He did. Yep.
This guy over here, David Koresh, came to the UK and recruited a number of Black British Caribbeans to follow him to his cult in America. Some whole families went, couples, friends. Among them was Winston Blake, pictured there, and his fiancée, Ruthie Elliott. They were never to return back to the United Kingdom again. So who is this David Koresh, and how did he persuade so many people to join him in the USA? He was a pedophile and somebody who believed that he was also the Messiah. He joined an offshoot cult from the Seventh-day Adventists and made his own subsect within it. Followers of that cult were called Branch David.
Now, let me go into it. And he from Houston, Texas. In 1983, he began claiming the gift of prophecy. David Telbody, in his 1999 book, let me see if I can get to what happened that day, because he changed his name from, his real name was Vernon Howell, I'm sorry, and he changed it he changed his name from Vernon Howell, I'm sorry, to David Koresh. It was for publicity and business purposes, right? So his first name, David, symbolized allegiance directly to the Bible, King David. Now, this is where the essay come in. He was alleged to have been involved in multiple incidents of physical and essay abuse of children. His doctrine of the House of David had led to marriages with both married and single women in the branch. A 6-month investigation of sexual abuse allegations by the Texas Child Protective Services in 1992 failed to turn up any evidence, possibly because the branch concealed the spiritual marriage of Koresh to Rachel's younger sister, Michelle, when she was 12, by assigning her a surrogate husband who was David, who was 10 years younger than Koresh, on the sake of appearances. Regarding allegations of physical abuse, no evidence was ever found. In one widely reported incident, ex-members claimed that Koresh became irritated with the cries of his son Cyrus and spanked the child severely for several minutes on 3 consecutive visits to the child's bedroom. And then in the second report, a man involved in a custody battle visited Mount Carmel Center and claimed to have seen the beating of a young boy with a stick. Finally, the FBI justification for forcing an end to the 51-day standoff was predicted on a charge with Koresh abusing children inside of the center. Allegations has been made that had fathered children with underage girls in the branch. And in the hours of the deadly convocation, Attorney General Janet Reno told reporters we had significant information that babies were being beaten. However, and this is where the child case, I think, come in with CPS. Hey, yes, girl, I'm surprised too. This is where Child Protective Services had changed their law into, like, if you whoop them, like hit your child with like a stick, extension cords and all that, that is abuse. That is abuse. Don't mean you can't discipline your child. Yes, she is. Don't mean you can't discipline your child. But if you take it too far, that's abuse. That's abuse. The allegations of the child abuse legally stem from detractors and ex-members. The 1993 Justice System report cites allegations of child sexual and physical abuse. I want to get into what happened that day. So the raid happened, right? It was February 28th, 1993. And this is how we get into April 19th. So the Waco siege began on February 28, 1993. Dang, I was only like 4 going on 5 years old. That's why I kind of remember it, but I don't. They raided Mount Carmel Center, and the ensuing pew battle resulted in the deaths of 4 ATF agents and 6 branch Davidans. Shortly after the initial raid, the FBI hostage rescue team took command of the federal operation because the FBI has jurisdiction over incidents, including the unaliving of the federal agent. The negotiation team established contact with Koresh inside the compound. Communication over the next 51 days include telephone exchanges with various FBI negotiators. Koresh himself had been seriously injured by pew wounds to his wrist and his left side. As the standoff continued, he and his closest male associates negotiated delays so that he could write religious documents, which he said he needed to complete before his surrender. Koresh conversations with the negotiators were dense, and they also included biblical imagery. The FBI negotiators treated the situation as a hostage crisis. The siege of the Mount Carmel Center ended on April 19th, 1993, when U.S. General Janet Reno approved recommendations of the FBI officials to proceed with a final advance in the project. With the branch dividends would be removed from the Mount Carmel Center by force. In an attempt to flush Crush out of the stronghold, the FBI resorted to pumping CS gas to the compound with an aid of an M728 compact engineer vehicle, which is equipped with battering ram. In the course of the advance, the Mount Carmel Center caught fire. Barricade inside the building, 79 branch dividend perished in the ensuing blaze. 21 of those victims were children under the age of 16. Coroner reports showed many branch dividends died from single wounds to the head, and Koresh 33 was one of them. A postmortem on his badly burned remains could not determine whether he died by suicide or, his own alive or he was unalived. One FBI official speculated that Steve Schreiner, Koresh right hand man, probably realized he was dealing with a fraud and so pewed and killed Koresh before returning the gun on himself. The medical examiner reported 20 people, including 5 children under the age of 14, had been pewed, and a 3-year-old had been stabbed in the chest. Child. That's a lot. Let's continue.
To recruit more people from Britain to join his cult, he sent over a lieutenant who would act as a person to breed the fertile ground. So they would mask as people were part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, host meetings in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and then start to spread their lies about David Koresh being the Messiah. And a number of people fell for this. They were at their church, which they thought was a safe space, but actually they were being recruited and groomed to join the cult. Here we have Diana Henry, who was recruited after her boyfriend was targeted at his local Bible study college. He was there along with others studying to become a preacher and also to learn and grow in his faith. David Koresh lied and told the people that ran the college that he's still part of the movement, didn't tell them that he was going to be there to spread his deadly lies, ended up recruiting a number of people from there, and some of them actually went to Texas to live on the ranch with him. What is particularly sad about Dan Henry's case is that not only did she go, she persuaded her 5 siblings and her mother to join her in USA. They never came back alive. And this is the gravestone in Manchester now of the family. Her dad tried to get his family back. He never did, and sadly, they're dead. This is a guy in action, getting his recruit. Apparently, he's a very charismatic speaker, came across as very radical and very persuadable. Once he had you on the ranch, he controlled your every move, who you could talk to, where you could sleep. He even had a rule that married couples had to practice celibacy. But he himself had a number of wives, even, again, children that he had slept with. So he's a paedophile, as I said before. And a lot of family members lost their loved ones because of this cult. At least 86 people died, a quarter of them children. And whilst we're thinking about this New Heaven, New Earth cult, we need to also unpack history and think about why don't we know about a homegrown Black British, it's not Black British cult, but a cult that stole a number of Black British Christians and took them to America, where unfortunately majority of them lost their lives. This is Susie Benter, who again also went to Texas to join this cult that she was recruited for in the UK. So I'm just saying these names because sometimes it's the first time some of these names have ever been said before. And I think it's particularly sad that we live in the UK, we do religious studies. They do not teach us about this wacko.
Yeah, she's from the UK. UK is very different.
And that directly affects us because we're seeing some of the exact patterns of New Heaven and New Earth. Particularly noting that this cult was a doomsday cult. They were preparing for Armageddon, they were preparing for war because it's the last days. And similarly with New Heaven, New Earth, they are a doomsday cult. Their leader believes he's essentially the Messiah, he's the only one that can interpret Revelations. And similar with this David Koresh guy, he has the same sort of beliefs that he's the only one that can interpret Revelations. And also, because he's interpreted it, it means that the end times near, which is why they had so much ammunition on their ranch site. There was an inquest into the death of 24 British people, again majority Black, that died. Or from what I've seen, I've only seen Black people that have died. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. But from my research online, and there's not a lot about it online, I'll tell you that for sure. We see that at the time, the then Prime Minister John Majors was petitioned to outlaw cults like the Branch Davidians being able to come and recruit people from the UK and take them abroad. Unfortunately, that law was not successful, but you can see it as far back as 1993, 1994, there has been petitions about the dangers of cults like this, particularly doomsday cults targeting Black Christians and isolating them for their families, friends, and ultimately because of their ideologies leading them to their death. So one thing that we do around here on this page, we learn and we share. So as I've been raising awareness about the New Heaven and New Earth cult, please do share this with other people, because this is not the first time this happened to Black British communities in the UK, and we have to be vigilant about people that will lie using church spaces, front-facing spaces, to lead you to deception. So please stay vigilant. If you're Christian, stay prayerful. Do not think it's by accident that.
We're going to talk about it. Let me play one more.
You might be too young to remember when this man went to war with the feds. Meet David Koresh, a self-proclaimed god with the craziest story in American history. In 1981, while David was still in his early 20s, he joined a religious group in Waco, Texas named the Branch Davidians. This group had been around since the 1930s and was housed in this complex. At the time of his joining, this group had over 1,400 members. But David immediately made a name for himself by marrying a woman in her late 60s by the name of Louise Roden, who happened to be the leader of the Branch Davidians. But soon after hooking up, Roden passed away, leaving the Branch Davidians with no clear-cut leader. Naturally, David felt he was the immediate successor. But this man here had other plans and got in his way. As it turned out, Louis had a son named George, who also felt he was entitled to the leadership role. With both men claiming the throne, the Branch Davidians broke into two groups. Half the group backed George, while the other half backed David. It wasn't long after this that David and his followers decided to leave Mount Carmel and decided to start their church in East Texas. It didn't take David long to decide to return to reclaim the throne. He, along with 7 other men dressed in all camo and heavily armed, decided to return to Mount Carmel. No one knows exactly what took place, but what we do know is a firefight took place. By the end of it, George had taken one to the chest and somehow pulled through. Koresh and his 7 followers were immediately put on trial for attempted murder. At the trial, Koresh and his followers claimed that they only went to Mount Carmel for investigation, claimed they believed Louise's corpse, David's ex-wife, was being abused. That they only took aim at trees in the middle of the...
Wait a damn, what? His ex-wife? What the hell? That lady about his grandma? Okay.
Night. Somehow David and his followers convinced the jury and were acquitted of all charges. Only a month after David's acquittal, Roden's son was charged with murder. And although he maintained that David had set him up, his arrest left David the clear-cut leader of the Branch Davidians. As God and leader of the group, David started making some crazy rules, one of which called for spiritual weddings, which allowed David to marry as many girls as he would like at any age. It wasn't long before David had 20 wives, ranging from kids to adults. Legend has it that David started telling his followers that an apocalypse was near. In response, the Branch Davidians started stockpiling weapons and ammunition, which quickly brought attention from these guys. The Davidians claimed that the weapons were for sales at shows, while the feds claimed that the weapons were for much more sinister plans. And since the feds didn't buy the story, they immediately filed for a warrant. The day the feds decided to raid the Davidians is when crap hit the fan. No one knows who fired the first shot, but a 4-hour firefight began. This left 6 followers and 4 agents unalived. Even David was hit with the stray, but survived the incident. And when the media caught wind of what was taking place in Waco, the circus began. Hundreds of journalists made their way to Waco, and over the course of the next 51 days, taped and broadcast all the events that took place at the Branch Davidian. Eventually, the feds grew tired of the standoff and decided they would enter the property using tanks and tear gas. They rammed the tanks into the building and threw tear gas inside in hopes that the Davidians would just surrender. Instead, a long firefight took place. Till this day, no one knows what actually took place, and that's because the compound just became engulfed in flames. Eventually, most of the building had burned down. When the feds finally made their way into the building, they found the remaining Davidians unalived from what they say were self-inflicted wounds, ending the 51-day siege on Mount Carmel. As always, I appreciate everybody that likes, comments, and follows the page. Double tap one time for your boy.
All right, y'all. I agree. Yeah, they go. Yes. I agree. Okay. But yeah, y'all, that is all I have for now. Next week we is gonna do Jonestown. We're gonna talk about Mr. Jim Jones, the Kool-Aid man. The Kool-Aid man. This I was like 4 or 5. I don't really remember, but I can say I probably heard a little bit on the news, and that was it. After that, I don't remember. I was 4 going on 5 because my sister's birthday was the 3rd. Yeah, that was a little something that it was talked about, but not really. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Jim Jones, the red Kool-Aid man. That's why I'll never drink red Kool-Aid. I remember hearing that story when I got older. Mama say, yeah, you heard about, was it I think it was my cousin. No, my cousin. My cousin said, you heard about the man that gave out Kool-Aid, the red Kool-Aid. I said, who is the red Kool-Aid man? And they talked about the story that they heard about Mr. Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid. And then I asked my mom, I'm like, yeah, he put something in the Kool-Aid. And I didn't care for red Kool-Aid. Number one, I really didn't care for it because it stains. Would eat the rich. Yep. That is so true. That is so true. It is. I hate to say it, but it is. I seen and I don't like red Kool-Aid because it's stained, for one. That's one thing I don't like. But then when I heard that, I was like, what? And I ain't drank red Kool-Aid. My mama made it. I didn't touch that Kool-Aid. Because I heard it. But then when I got older, we did one in history. And I was like, dang. Yeah, I ain't drink red Kool-Aid for a minute. You got to put pineapples and you got to do something. I wasn't drinking that. I didn't trust it. All right, y'all. I'm finna go. I will be back at 12:45. I will be talking about Anton Daniels' lawsuit against Corey Holcomb. And Corey responded. There's some stuff going on with that child. I haven't really touched Anton Daniels too much, but I am today. So we're going to talk about that later. And then we got Krishan, and then we got mommy content later on. So we're going to talk about it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Yes, girl, both. I did a whole live on his watch, child. We're going to talk about it. They are both disgusting. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. I should have called it they lawsuit. When I taught, I should have called it both disgustings going against each other. But don't forget, we got Jim Jones next Wednesday, so that he gonna be on there. They sure do, and that's why we finna talk about him. We can drag if you like. If you guys would like to drag, we can drag. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all.